So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Matt with Maddie 22? Yes, 22.
Ooh.
Eating air to live forever. Now, I have to admit, I don't actually know if we're going to get into Breatharianism, but Raw Matt famously was a Breatharian for a while. And, yeah. So, he also wrote a book in which he references his Breatharianism, which purports to teach you how to stop aging and live forever.
Mm-hmm. And we are responding to him being on a nutrition podcast, which is, I'm not gonna lie, wild. The things we're getting into on a nutrition podcast.
Yeah, it really is. And also, I also want to point out that since writing that book, which has his face on it, Raw Matt has done this thing that I like to call visibly aging, which is a little weird if he wrote the book on not aging. And if that guy ever dies, well...
Seems sus.
Yeah, pretty sus. I mean, it already seems pretty sus. I'll be honest. But anyway, Maddie, how are you today?
As I yawn widely, let's just do hashtag mom life hitting me hard today. But hey, I've got the last of the pre-mixed Jack and Coke, so we'll get a little caffeine as within me as we play our game, and it's gonna be fun.
You know, I tried those. They were a little on the sweet side for me, but they weren't bad.
Yeah, and I guess I might just not be a fan of Coke Zero because it tastes really artificial to me. But yeah, and it's a little sweeter than I would make mine. No lime.
No lime. Come on.
All
right. Well, I actually have a super chat from earlier in the day at 9:43 a.m. DM teriyaki flavored Arkwing, which is, said an offering for the void in Darwin's name with a DNA emoji, and that was for $2 US. So thank you very much, DM teriyaki flavored Arkwing. Do you know the teriyaki flavored Ark story?
I don't.
So there was this guy who was like, I feel like creationists are really bad at fact checking, and I'm gonna trick them into thinking that I found the Ark. And so, as evidence, he sent them these wood chips that he'd soaked in teriyaki sauce to age them. And they still smelled like teriyaki. And they were like, okay, yeah, this is good enough for us. Let's do a TV special about this.
This is definitely the Ark.
They did a whole TV special about him finding the Ark on the basis of the evidence that he provided, which was teriyaki-soaked wood chips, which is just perfect.
That's chef's kiss beautiful.
I know. All right, guys, so we are here to talk about some Raw Map, but before that, we have a drinking game that we're going to play, and it just occurred to me that I have actually forgotten to open up the drink counter program so that I can effectively measure the drinks that we're taking. So don't worry, I'm doing it right now. We don't have to worry about this. But,
okay.
Yeah, so...
I believe in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. At
By
least
the way,
someone does.
Yeah, my current favorite joke at the moment, and again, this might be mom life hitting me really hard, but is talking to adults the way we talk to toddlers, right? And baby girl, now officially a toddler, right? But the so a lot of these phrases are a little too advanced for her, but the ooh, let's make a good choice today. Do you have your listening ears on? And I'm excited to potentially use some of my mom phrases while responding to Raw Matt today, just to preface everybody.
Now, Christopher Kennedy Atheist, who's been a member from 8 months and is at the Amulet level, sends a membership milestone chat in which each word is spelled backwards, but is in the order that is to be read left to right, saying, AIG are a bag of dicks. And excellent. I like it.
Hey,
so
that's
thank
a
you.
drink.
That is a drink.
Love it.
All right. Asta archaeologists study ancient things, Ryu, for $6.16, which is one of the numbers of the beast, aka the numerical value of the name Nero Caesar. Says, trying again because YouTube glitched out. AIG are an ugly bag of mostly tunicates. We'll take a drink for that, too.
Cheers.
I'm drinking some bourbon and Coke.
I bet yours tastes better than mine.
Yeah, probably. I actually... Although, here's the thing. I only bought one nip bottle. Because the thing was, like, I had plenty... not plenty. I had enough leftover rum to, like, maybe get through tonight. But I was like,
okay,
I'll play it safe and buy this $1 nip bottle. Just in case.
There you go.
Roasting a Keller for $9.99 says, mummies are rare because the British ate them and used their bones as medicine. Why?
Facts.
Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, it's not the only reason they're rare. It's why they're rarer than they should be. But yeah, that was a thing. Weird-ass British people. Like, oh, look, this carefully preserved human corpse probably has some medicinal value for some reason.
Reasons?
Let's
don't worry about that.
Grind it up and drink it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
I like the Futurama episode on that.
Oh, yeah, with the teriyaki flavored mummified king. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, speaking of drink triggers, when we do these Tuesday night shows, because we are talking about the lowest of the lowest hanging fruit in young Earth creationism, like Raw Matt or Kent Hovind, we have drinking rules. We already saw one, which is, if you super chat or you milestone chat anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, we take a drink. Now, of course, that is because of their copyright troll. Not quite. Technically, it's not copyright trolling, okay? But it is abuse of the copyright system here on YouTube, in which they will issue copyright claims, not strikes to be fair, but claims, for videos using even a little bit of their footage. That's clearly fair use. So that's why they are a bag of dicks. As to archaeologists study ancient things, Ryu says for $5. I mean, it makes as much sense as Breatharianism for medical purposes to eat mummies for medicinal purposes. I mean, it's close. Yeah, it's probably close.
Yeah.
I mean, at least fruit does get you nutrition, unlike the medicinal effects of mummies, which are just zero.
Yeah, like, again, the only argument for fruitarianism that I think I could, like, understand would be the one from, like, ethics of I don't want anything else to die so that I can live.
Yeah.
So only eating fruit doesn't actually kill anything. The plant still is alive. So, like, that's not a position I take, right? Like, I eat steak, it's delicious. You know, that's not a position I'm gonna take, but that is an argument I could understand and like I think have some respect for, you know, even if I don't agree with it. But anything that's like, if you just eat this one wacky trick, you'll live forever and never get sick, right? Like, that's always nonsense and I don't have any respect for. Now, because panaceas aren't real.
Here's an ethical question for the for vegans out there. Figs often contain fig wasps. Are figs that contain a fig wasp vegan? Now, the fig wasp got in there intentionally and pollinated that fig on purpose and then died because that's what fig wasps do. So you didn't kill the fig wasp, and it chose to get in that fig.
Yeah.
So, but it's still animal. You're eating an animal if you eat a fig that has a wasp in it. Anyway, so yeah, we will also take a drink if Raw Matt says something that's so stupid that we just kind of have to take a drink. We will also take a drink if Raw Matt gets something right and he's not just reading it off of something. Now, it's going to be a little bit harder to tell because this is an audio-only video that thing that we're looking at. The video with the the audio visualization. I did the video audio visualization. There you go. I can talk. I know English myself. So yeah, that's not even original. So it's going to be tough to say if he's reading it off. But if he does seem to be, then he doesn't get the drink trigger for that. Also, Steve Reno, who's been a member for 11 months at the Tetrapod level, says pelagic tunicates are a panacea, followed by a Mothra emoji. So we'll take a drink for the Mothra emoji, although I'm pretty sure pelagic tunicates are not a panacea.
Cheers.
And so that brings up another one, which is we will take a drink if anyone super chats or membership milestone chats any of the 3 kaiju emojis. We have King Ghidorah, we have Mothra, and we've got Godzilla. You do have to be a channel member to do that, so if you want to have access to all the cool channel emojis, which I'm sure my members will be happy to demonstrate, feel free to join the channel. Starts at like
Be a channel
$1.99. Yeah. Starts at like $1.99. That's less than like Musk's annual shitter premium fire sale price. Which,
yes.
Did you hear that he told Netanyahu that he's planning to make everyone pay for Twitter?
What?
Yeah, he wants to make the ground floor be a paid membership for Twitter. If you don't pay, you don't get Twitter.
I got off Twitter a few weeks ago because it was just smoldering.
Yeah. There's one group chat that is basically the only reason I'm still on Twitter at all.
I might get back on just for that group chat.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, anyway, we will also take a drink if Raw Matt tells a story that didn't happen, or tells a joke that doesn't land. So, I mean, the joke that doesn't land is pretty self-explanatory, but if, he pretends that he was on an airplane sitting next to a Berkeley professor having a big old argument about evolution, and this Berkeley professor, for some reason, just doesn't understand the first thing about science, when in fact that was actually an argument that he had with his shampoo bottle, who understandably doesn't know the first thing about science, then we'll take a drink for that. We'll also take a drink if Raw Matt mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party or various prominent members and leaders in that party, or mentions their more historically significant activities in the 20th century. We will also take a drink if one of us can predict what Raw Matt's going to say. We'll also take a drink if Raw Matt uses a source, which is very rare for Raw Matt, but if he uses a source and it directly contradicts him, not just fails to support him, but directly contradicts him when we check. We call that a Trojan source when we take a drink for it. We also have...
That's my favorite drink trigger.
It is a good one. We also have one called ad hominid, which happens when the creationist mistakes Lucy for some larger group of animals, whether it be all of Australopithecus, just her species, all of hominin, like all of Australopithecines, the whole genus, all of the fossil hominins, any larger group of taxa other than just like the one individual, if they pretend that she represents that larger taxa or taxon, we'll take a drink for that. That only can happen once per stream, though. Rosina Keller for $9.99 says, Clara is the timeless child. That's true. That is true as far as I know. And William Robinson, who's been a member for 3 months and is at the amniote level, sends a Godzilla emoji and a drink emoji. When I will oblige, I will drink.
Yeah.
All right. Did I mention predictions? Yeah, if we're not sure what Raw Matt's going to say, but one of us get the prediction, then we'll take a drink for that. And I think that covers it. If it doesn't... Oh, yeah, also Godzilla or Mothra might come by audibly. We'll take a drink for that. But I think that covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah. If we come up with another one, we'll let you guys know in the middle of it. But we do like to include the disclaimer that, hey, guys, the drinking rules, they're just for fun, so know your limits, right? If you don't drink, that's not a problem. You can play with a non-alcoholic beverage. You can play with, like, a vape pen, right? There's lots of ways to play along in ways that, like, you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And then, like, don't play the drinking game, get smashed, and then go do something dumb, because that's not our fault.
Yeah, that's a you problem. Don't operate heavy machinery.
Problem.
Don't drive. Yeah. Don't text your ex.
No, don't do it. This is for fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for 9 whole months, I played with water and Gatorade.
I remember.
Yeah.
That was actually that first, like, I think it was the second week that you did that. I was like, wonder if Maddie's pregnant.
Yeah. Because we didn't tell anybody except immediate family until we were in the second trimester.
Yeah. But before that, I was like, Maddie's acting differently.
Yeah, Maddie's not drinking alcohol and has to throw up a lot.
Well, I didn't know about the throwing up, but you kept that off.
I don't think I ever had to stop a stream to throw up.
Or if you did, you went and did it during a break or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But, like, I'm not gonna lie, Navy Land got me really good at that. The number of times I was just like, excuse me one moment, I'm gonna go over here, throw up, come back, return to watch turnover. Listen, I was dealing with some health issues, undiagnosed health issues while I was in...
No, I know.
And I don't recommend doing that. That's not good for your health.
No.
But, I don't know, I got real good at it.
All right, well, I'm gonna hit play on this.
Let's do it.
Raw Matt is talking about here what he thinks are the ethical consequences of not believing in God. So, yeah.
right? If you believe you're nothing and everybody's just an animal and you're just an animal, life has no purpose, well, it doesn't really matter. So if I'm offended, who cares if they die? Morality doesn't exist. There's no such thing as absolute. So if I'm offended, I get to do whatever I deem is right and moral.
So that's a lot to unpack there. First, it's really, really stupid, so I think we're going to take a drink for it.
Yeah, that's a take. That's a hot take.
Yeah. First, I don't know what it is about not believing in God that means that no absolutes exist. Like, I absolutely know this. I can absolutely go find out the speed of light. I can measure in absolute terms the mass of certain things, even the age of certain rocks. So what absolute really ultimately means is just objectively determinable. And there are many things that are objectively determinable. Now, morality might not be one of those things. And also, there's a difference, though, between objective morality and absolute morality. Absolute morality generally has to be objective, but you can have non-absolute objective morality, because you could have an objective morality system that takes into account differences in circumstance, making it not absolute.
Okay, so
that
it is wrong to steal unless you are stealing bread, or unless you're stealing food because you are starving, would be an example of an objective morality that is not absolute.
Right. Because there's a general principle stealing is wrong, but there are objectively acceptable exceptions. In fact, actually, one of the more prominent moral systems, Kantian ethics, ultimately ends up being a fairly objective moral system, but it's not quite an absolute system once you realize how many caveats there can be in the moral imperatives that take into account differences in situations, because nothing about Kantian ethics prevents you from having a caveat in a moral imperative.
Okay.
Now,
and so I would like to reiterate, by the way, before we just jump down Kantian ethics here, that this is a nutrition podcast that we're responding to.
There is that, which is weird.
Like, let's back up here for a second on what kind of rabbit hole we're in. Because the core logical fallacy is argument from consequences, right? Evolution cannot be true because if it was, then everyone would behave badly, right? That's like whether or not the consequences of something being true are good or not doesn't have any doesn't affect the truth value of the statement. So that's fun. So this can't be true because I think people won't behave well. And so there's our core logical fallacy to start off our evening.
Yeah.
And then on a nutrition podcast, we're trying to jump into the claim he's making here is that objective morals exist, and objective morals only exist inside of his particular fundamentalist Christian worldview, right? And so I feel like that's a logical fallacy. I don't know if it has a name, right? But
ultimately it's false dichotomy, right? There are other worldviews than his that can arrive at meaning and moral worth, and even objective or even absolute morality, if that's what he really wants to go with. Although most people who say they're in favor of absolute morality are actually in favor of objective relative morality and not actually absolute morality.
Yeah.
But also, April Van Ryn, who's been a member for 6 months and is at the Amnio level, says, "I bet you say my name wrong." Well, I hope I didn't, but I very well could have. And then sends a Godzilla, followed by far too many pelagic tunicates and a hashtag pelagic tunicate uprising. Gross.
Pelagic tunicate uprising?
Gross. We'll take a drink.
Yes! Join me in all the pelagic tunicates!
Why do I keep having on co-hosts who like pelagic tunicates? Ugh. Gross. All right, here we go.
Because morality doesn't exist. So
that's... Yeah. I'm not even going to go ahead and explain the fact that there are many, many, many non-theist moral philosophers out there. And what are they doing if morality doesn't exist?
Right. And again, whether or not evolution is true, it has no bearing on moral absolutism or moral objectivism.
Yeah. Oh, here's a fun thing. A moral, objective, divine command theory of morality could be true, and evolution be true too.
Mm-hmm. But those are not mutually exclusive. And I would also just like to point out that, again, on this nutrition podcast, Raw Matt is like grossly unqualified to discuss any of the topics, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like he doesn't like, I'm all, especially on the internet commentary, right? I'm all for like well-read lay people in any field, being like communicating complex ideas.
Hence
right?
why you're here, because I'm at best a well-read layperson.
Yeah, well, and like I am a subject matter expert in one really specific thing, right? And that's like Arctic sea ice. I don't know anything about Antarctic sea ice. That stuff sounds weird. I don't know. Right.
I mean, it's literally the no bear sea ice. What fun is that?
Yeah, no bear sea ice? No fun. No fun whatsoever. So like I am definitely speaking outside my expertise here, but like I know a lot about like physical science in general, but I don't know a lot about like morality. Like I haven't studied philosophy. I took one philosophy class in high school. And so like I'm not here to talk about philosophy. I'm not even a well-educated layperson in that, right? Anyway, so that's just like one, I wish some of our YEC friends would like pick a lane, and become well versed in that subject and then talk about that subject, right? Like if you want it to be theology, great. Like there's a lot of resources.
They're
to
even all
really well read.
Pretty badly read in theology too.
Right, that's the thing. Like I'm better read in theology than I am philosophy. And I'm even better read in like biblical studies, I guess would be the topic.
It's not hard to be better read in biblical studies.
Yeah, that's true. But like I shouldn't be, right? Again, like this comes up when we talk about Matt Powell, his goal in life is to like be a preacher, right? Whose goal in life is not to be a preacher, should not be better read than in his field of study.
Right.
Right.
And yet. Yep. All right, we got a couple, actually a trio of super chats. For $5, my unfinished channel, nice, says AIG is a fabulous funhouse of fallacious phalluses. We'll take a drink for that. Thank you very much.
I love alliteration. It's my favorite.
Ask the archaeologists study ancient things. Ryu, for $10 says, Dapper, why do I keep inviting co-hosts who like pelagic tunicates? The fruitiest Matt, because morality doesn't exist, sent me a bit more than it should have, with the Godzilla emoji. Nice. Take a drink. I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah.
Savage Cobra, the cursorial angiosperm, for $2 says, AIG is a duffel of diverse digit 21s. Take a drink.
Oh.
Now someone out there who has like a sixth finger on their left hand or something is being like, wait, what did I do?
What did I do? Well, guys.
All right, here we go.
Well, I guess I make the decisions and I rule my life. So I can end others and I can end myself if life's bad.
I mean, you can. That's true. Physically, that's a thing you can do. But the weird thing that you might notice is that atheists don't have a particularly high... I think murder's okay, but or a auto murder rate. I'm trying to stay on the safe side of the monetization, because of the only videos of mine that ever get demonetized are the live streams, and it's because stuff like this comes up. But yeah, atheists don't demonstrably have higher rates of either of those things. So even if it were true, and I'm not saying it is, that not believing in God and believing in evolution gave you no moral justification to say that, murder is bad, doesn't seem to have the effect of making atheists more likely to do it. So,
right.
Who cares?
And like, there's some loose stats, and I'm thinking of the fact that like suicide rates of LGBTQ are highest seem to correlate with strict religious, like regions with really strict religious traditions, like, or high concentrations of that, right? Sorry if I used a non-YouTube appropriate word there.
I think it's okay.
Okay, well, a little bad. I'll work on not using that as we move forward.
Well, look, worst case scenario, I've been demonetized, so I appreciate the super chats all the more.
Yeah. And so, this idea that, like, everything about your life, your purpose, right, all of that comes from God, but it doesn't just come from God, right? It comes from, like, people in your religious communities telling you what God's purpose for your life is, right? Because we're not talking about, like, listen, I don't think burning bushes are appearing to everybody, right? I don't think those are common occurrences at church youth group gatherings, telling everybody, like, all right, Timmy, your purpose is to be a welder. Go
weld for Jesus.
Go weld for Jesus, Timmy. You can do it. Right? Like, that's not happening, and so it's this idea that you're being given your purpose in life by religious authorities, like, and then that you don't have any, like, autonomy over your own life, right? That sounds awful to me. And I think it was last Matt with Maddie that we talked a little bit about, like, in my youth, how stressed out I got about trying to decide, was I, as I was, like, applying to colleges, right? Am I doing what God wants, right? How do I know for sure that I'm following God's call on my life? Like, so that is a really, really stressful, and I would argue, like, healthy way to live. And that doesn't mean that, like, you're not, like, so not living like that, having, like, I'm gonna have some, like, autonomy over my own life and choices, and I'm gonna, like, do my best to, follow the, like, my own convictions and beliefs, right? Like, that works inside of a religious context and can be healthy, right? But what Raw Matt here is describing, it sounds like just a recipe for disaster, for, like, living a fulfilled, happy life. And every time I hear somebody, like, one of these, like, somebody talk and give this argument, it's like, are you saying the quiet part out loud, dude? Are you saying that, like, the only thing that's keeping you from, like, hunting humans is that God told you not to? Like,
yeah.
In which case, you keep your religion. That seems to be working for you. Right?
Yeah.
But, like, that's scary.
It is scary. If that's the thing I realize, though, is most of the time, no, it's not. They just imagine that that's how everyone else is.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to hit play.
So that's why it's destructive. It's destructive to the very person that believes it. And that's one of the main reasons I'm against it. I don't really care like that. People will justify racism all they want many other ways.
Yeah, like Christianity.
Yeah.
Which has played a big role in justifying racism. In fact, it was basically Christians who made up race and racism in the first place.
Yeah.
And then some scientists tried to find justification for it. But it was originally made up because people needed an excuse to enslave other people. And since they were getting those slaves from far away, and there were obvious physical differences between them and the people that they were buying, they just invented racial categories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for the person, for their very own mindset, you definitely want to take chance out of it, right? I mean, look at it, like, literally, to believe that nothing, and maybe there was something called magnetism, and that was the reason that it created all the matter that we see in life today.
Magnets, how do they work? I'm just taking a drink for maybe magnetism is what caused evolution.
Magnets.
Oh man. Goodness.
I love the Stargate SG-1.
Oh, drink from Mothra.
Cheers. There's an episode where it's a groundhog, but it's only Jack and Teal'c are stuck in the loop, and Jack has to explain science to Carter, and he just goes, "It's magnets."
Goop23 for $2 says trans rights and AIG are a bag of dicks, and I will agree with both of those sentiments.
Yeah, hell yeah, trans rights.
Look, I actually made an argument to someone who was pretty far on the right and pretty anti-trans rights, and I was like, look, worst case scenario, you're trying to take away people's rights because you don't like their fashion choices. Like, if you just think that this trans person isn't a man or a woman or whatever, they're just pretending, okay, cool. Now what? Why shouldn't they have the rights to not be discriminated against in terms of housing or employment or something because they dress a way that you find weird? Is that really the argument you want to go with?
And, is that really the hill you want to die on?
Yeah, I don't think they changed their minds, but they also didn't really have a response to that one. And I was like, well, okay. And DM, teriyaki flavored arc wing. I kind of now want to open up a wing restaurant that sells teriyaki arc flavored wings.
Yes. No, now I want beef jerky.
Well, I mean, that too. Says trans rights with a Mothra. We'll take a drink for Mothra.
Hell yeah, trans rights.
Asked archaeologist study ancient things Ryu for $20 says trans rights with a bunch of pelagic tunicates, which, I mean, good sentiment at first, kind of ruined it a little bit. I don't think I would associate something as gross as pelagic tunicates with the trans people out there. I mean, I guess there must...
drink for hell yeah, trans rights.
Fair enough. I guess there must be some trans people who are terrible enough to deserve pelagic tunicates. Because, you know, there's terrible people in every community. So, maybe. But it's not because they're trans. It's just because they're otherwise independently terrible. Savage Cobra, the cursorial angiosperm for $2 says, in the middle of my backswing? All right, here we go.
And it just seems like they have more faith in that than they do anything else, right? Like, they'll believe in Bigfoot, they'll believe in aliens, they'll believe in...
I actually don't know that there's a big correspondence between believing in evolution and believing in aliens and Bigfoot. Like,
yeah, well, and this is, like, accepting the Big Bang Theory as, like, roughly how the universe started. You're gonna have to draw me a line there between that leads to Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Listen, like, cryptids are my favorite conspiracy theories. There's so many of those.
And so fun.
To be true. They're so fun.
Yeah.
I've been watching old X-Files, and I just watched the one with Old Blue. Anyway, it's a lake monster. And it's delightful. But, like, I don't actually think that's true, right? But the reason I don't think Bigfoot is real is because there is no conclusive evidence that supports the existence of another extant hominin. Thank you.
There are lots of extant hominids.
Those suffixes kick my butt.
Oh no, I get it. So here's one of the things I also like about cryptids, which is that it's one of the conspiracy theories that you can be enthusiastic about without also being a horrible racist of some kind.
Yes.
You don't have to be anti-Semitic to believe in Bigfoot. You don't have to think that there's like a great replacement going on to believe in Bigfoot. You don't have to think that people in other parts of the world than in Europe could build things like the ancient alien stuff. Where it's like, oh well, brown people couldn't build structures made of rocks. You don't have to believe that to believe in Bigfoot. Like, it's one of the only wholesome, basically potentially wholesome at least, conspiracy theory nut job stuff. Because it's like, you know what? Go believe that there's a big monkey wandering around upright in North America. Have fun with it. You're not.
Because you know what that leads to? That leads to
camping.
My hobby is camping and nature photography,
which are great.
Right? Yeah. That's great.
It doesn't lead you to holding up a pizza place or blaming all your problems on the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more things. Jack DeHarts for £2 says trans lefts hey, you know what? We don't want to leave the Southpaws out.
Yeah.
Um,
Trans lefts.
TikTok for 20 Argentinian pesos, or is it peso? I think it's pesos. Says trans tops. Hey, you know what? You take whatever position you want. And Skeletor over 9,000, remember for 10 months and is at the amulet level, says I support trans rights and trans wrongs. Godzilla. I mean, depending on how wrong, I don't know. You know, just like I said.
But what about BK do crimes?
It depends on the crime. Some crimes are cool. Dapper Dinosaur does not endorse any crimes. But for legal reasons, my lawyer has just informed me that I do not support any crimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So especially human crimes. Dinosaur crimes, that's a little different.
Well, dinosaur crimes were adjudicated in dinosaur court, so...
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the Earth could be hollow with another species living there. They, you name it, they'll believe in it.
I mean, I'm going to drink for National Socialists because there were a bunch of them who were into the idea of there being a subterranean superhuman species.
Yeah, okay. My argument here is nuh-uh you. Like
Well, actually, I don't think there's a lot of creationists who believe in the hollow Earth.
Oh, I thought waters of the deep, right? Water coming up from in the center of the earth?
Yeah, but they don't usually think that means the entire Earth is hollow and that there's like an inner sun.
Oh, okay.
Because hollow Earth and like hydroplate aren't the same thing. They are both silly and they do both involve underground things, but different underground things. Zooting for $2 says, I'm trans and I support pelagic tunicates. Well, I support one of those things.
Pelagic tunicates.
No, that's not the one I support. Then, whatever. Forget about it.
I support two things in that statement.
Well, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's twice as much as you.
That's true, and I'm okay with that. Goop23 for $5 says, one of my favorite things about aliens built the Aztec thing, especially, is that Oxford University is older than the Aztecs. Yeah, that is an odd thing that people seem to forget about, is, like, your sense of scale in history is, like, weird. Like, you're closer to Cleopatra than she was the building of the Great Pyramids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harvard is older than calculus.
Yeah, weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the second you mention God, that's impossible. That's stupid.
I actually know a lot of conspiracy theorists who might not be Christians in the sense that Raw Matt would like them to be, but who are at least theists. So, like, well, I think Matt is just like reversing this.
Bigfoot I think there's some Mormon theology that says Bigfoot is Cain.
I wouldn't quite call it theology. I think I'd more call it folk beliefs. But yeah, it is a prominent part of some like Mormon subcultures that the Bigfoot is like the descendant of Cain.
Yeah.
Who I guess was on the ark? I guess.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of Mormons believe in Bigfoot.
Rosana Keller for $1.99 says, young Earth creationists don't believe in P waves or S waves. Is that true? I don't think I've heard them say that. I mean, they don't believe in a lot of stuff, so I guess I can't say it wouldn't be true. But I haven't heard them say
Flat
that.
Earthers don't believe in that.
Yeah, although they have really no explanation as to what is being picked up by seismometers. Like, I've never heard a good, like, so what's the seismometer doing?
If you try to, like, anytime you try to talk to a young Earth creationist about, not young Earth creationist, sorry, flat earther, about anything other than this picture that they took, right? You're like, okay, cool, the Earth is flat. Why do these P waves behave like this? Right? Like,
I don't know.
Okay, cool, the Earth is flat. Why do hurricanes in the northern hemisphere rotate?
Oh, it's because of solar vortices in the atmosphere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How does that work? Explain that to me.
So the sun is in the atmosphere and it spins around, and that causes counter-rotating vortices because of the friction that it causes with the air.
Okay.
My follow-up question then is, why doesn't the dividing line between clockwise and counterclockwise storm rotation change throughout the year as the sun moves between the tropics?
Yeah, and why does it behave one way in the northern hemisphere and one way in the southern hemisphere?
Oh, no, see, they have that because it's the counter-rotating vortices.
Oh, okay.
So the sun.
Okay.
That part they got covered. The real big part is that, it should be that, like, in, like, northern summer, that you should get fewer the counterclockwise rotating storms in the north because they should actually start higher up than the equator.
Yeah.
And storms forming right at the equator should actually be going the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, even a little bit north of the equator, they should still be going the other way. But that's not what we get. It always is demarcated by the equator.
Yeah, and we also don't get hurricanes forming within.
Oh, you cut out there.
Why is that?
Within what? Sorry.
Oh, plus or minus 5 degrees latitude of the equator, hurricane form.
Okay. P waves are made up by big seismology, says Savage Core with a cursorial angiosperm for $2. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Big seismology invented P waves to sell more globes in cahoots with Big Globe.
Yeah.
They get a cut.
The thing I really want an explanation for, though, is if gravity isn't real, then then how does buoyancy work?
Density is a force.
Stupid, right? They get super it makes no logical sense. They would rather believe nothing did everything than the possibility that there was a creator. When they're looking at creation, everything you do, you look around and you see creation. So why would you deny that there's a creator?
I feel like that was affirming the consequent, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
that sounds like if there is a creator, then there is a creation. I see a creation, therefore there was a creator.
Yeah, well, that is a basic logic fallacy of the, like, all Smurfs are blue. This is a blue flower, therefore it's a Smurf.
Yeah.
You know? So all Smurfs being blue does not mean that all blue things are Smurfs. That's bad.
It makes no logical sense. And they say, no, it's just a lack of belief. That's not what any dictionary says. They're just trying to redefine it.
Okay, I'm actually going to kind of drink because Ramat is kind of right there.
Okay.
Traditionally, and still to this day, in like philosophy of religion texts, which are also written by atheist philosophers, by the way, atheism is actually defined as the belief that no gods exist.
Okay.
And someone who simply lacks a belief in the existence of any gods, but does not have the positive belief in their non-existence, would not, under traditional definitions, be an atheist. They would be an agnostic. However, it is the case that as a result of conscious effort by atheist activists, the usage of that word outside of technical contexts has been shifting. I don't really like it because I think it is less useful. I think it is misleading. I also think it's a blatantly political move which I find to be somewhat distasteful, but it's also happening, so I can't really deny that.
Well, and I'll also say that, like, outside of formal philosophical circles, right, where, like, in any, especially academic field, right, words in English start to have a very specific meaning in that field that they don't have in, like, common vernacular. A great example is chaos, right? In mathematics, chaotic means something incredibly specific. It means a system that is highly dependent upon initial conditions. But in the colloquial use, we can use the word chaotic and not mean the mathematical definition, right? And so, anyway, so if we're just talking about, like, you and me talking about, like, different philosophies and different, like, beliefs or lacks of beliefs in God, then, like, atheism is a lack of belief or positively holds the belief that there is no God. To me, that's a distinction without a difference, right? In, like, for you and I to have a conversation, right?
Well, it can and it can't be, because sometimes people who actually do lack a belief or do positively believe that there are no gods will try to avoid any burden of demonstrating the reasonableness of that belief by pretending to simply lack a belief. And I've seen it actually happen, and there is a difference, right? If you say, I believe there are no gods, that is a positive belief, and you do bear a burden of proof for demonstrating that if you want people to take you seriously.
Okay.
Although, of course, the other option is that if you say that you actually just lack a belief in one way or the other, you also have some burden to demonstrate why arguments put forward are not convincing beyond simply saying, I am unconvinced. And so I find that too often in conversations about this topic, both atheists and agnostics will try to hide behind a imagined lack of burden of proof, which they actually do have. And here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
There are sophisticated arguments for both agnosticism, philosophically speaking, and atheism, philosophically speaking. You could just do the work to learn them, and then you could deploy them, rather than taking the lazy way, which I'm not saying everyone does, but it does happen, and it's a little annoying. And so I share some of Ramat's frustration with this, but for different reasons. He is frustrated, basically, because people don't believe him.
Yeah.
I get frustrated because I dislike bad arguments.
Gotcha. I guess I get frustrated with this because that is not an argument or a conversation I am interested in having.
Oh,
right?
Well, yeah, there's a reason I basically don't ever have that conversation on the channel.
Yeah, because to me, like, if we're talking about, like, I believe in, you know, like, God, I don't believe in God, like, I guess to me, a belief, like, you should have a reason why you believe something.
I tend to agree.
But, like, that, I don't think that needs to be a reason that would convince someone else, right? Because to me, beliefs are fundamentally different, especially, like, about the supernatural, right? The supernatural, like, by definition, in my opinion, can't be proven, right? So, anyway, that's so, like, I don't think you can argue someone into or out of a belief.
Well, Ask the Archaeologists Study Ancient Things Ryu for $10 says, Dempsey is a force. Stupid. Fruity Matt, who despite his phallic shape does not like AIG, if I recall correctly, is a good comedian, ironically. Yes. Oh darn, look at the trees, isn't on the bingo card. Says Heather Coo for $5 with a Godzilla
Excellent.
and a Mothra and a Ghidorah, so we will take a drink for that. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to
Sorry,
play...
let's get off this weird philosophical thing.
Yeah, in one of your videos at the end, didn't they put an African American, like, tribal kind of child in a cage in a zoo?
What? I'm not sure what he's talking about.
He had, like, sharp teeth, and it
Yes.
was kind of an evolutionist that did that.
Yes, exactly. He was Otabengo was his name.
Oh, yeah. Once again, we're back to racial categories that were invented by Christians to excuse their slave mongering, and were then later attempted to be justified mostly by other Christians.
Yeah, like, the Victorians did some bad stuff to other human beings.
Yeah.
Right? Like...
And their motivation was primarily economic, and the primary way they started justifying this was religious and not scientific. The scientific justifications came afterwards and were motivated by the fact that these beliefs were already current and had originally been motivated by, well, one, economics, but then were excused religiously. If you want to pick the ideology, which is the cause of racism, as it exists now, at least, I don't actually think Christianity is a fair thing to point at, because it wasn't all of Christianity that did this, but it was certainly Christianity that was used as an excuse. So if you had to pick between Christianity and science, Christianity is the one that caused this, not science.
Yeah. Well, and again, like one of the issues we're also running into here is that, like, Matt uses very black and white thinking, right? All Christians think like this, all atheists think like this, right? When we know that, like, all groups are internally diverse, right? And you can't say all Christians believe X, right? Christians don't even agree with Christmas is.
Yeah.
You know?
And also, I will point out...
Or Easter, our most important holy day. Anyway.
That some of the most important abolition work, especially ideologically, was put forth by Christians. There weren't a whole lot of, like, non-Christians, whether it be other religions or atheists, who were like, oh yeah, we totally need to get rid of slavery. There were some, but it was mostly a Christian movement, at least at first.
Yeah.
So, I mean, by the time abolitionism became popular in the United States, deism was already, like, mostly forgotten. There were very few deists left. So.
Gotcha.
And he was a pygmy in Africa. And they said, this will be the perfect evidence we need to push our narrative. And because he was short, right, because he was a pygmy, he was isolated in a tribe where there was reductive evolution occurring.
Oh my goodness, we're going to take a drink for short people are the result of reductive evolution. My goodness.
Yeah.
First of all,
has Matt ever looked at a modern North Korean and South Korean sitting next to each other?
I don't know, but yeah, there's a noticeable height difference, which is rather surprising given the fact that, at least as far as I'm concerned, South Koreans are already a pretty short group of people.
Yeah, and the fact that they're eating the same types of food.
Right, they're just not getting enough of it in North Korea.
Right.
But yeah, also, it's one of these things, because, okay, reductive evolution is a thing, right? Some organisms evolve to reduce this total size of their genome and the total number of genes that they have in the genome. That is a thing that happens. There are certain environments in which smaller genomes and fewer genes is beneficial. Usually it's a result of an organism becoming hyper-specialized for some very unusual environment. So you see it a lot in like artificial labs where bacteria are only given one source of calories and a very consistent kind of growth medium and growth technique that, is very unlike the wild. Then you get a lot of reductive evolution. But in order to say that, various very short people groups in Africa are undergoing reductive evolution, you would actually have to check their genomes. Do they actually have smaller genomes? And the thing is, I don't actually know. However, I've never seen a report of that, and I do know that that people have gone out and taken genetic samples from lots of different ethnic groups, including lots of relatively isolated ones in Africa. And I have yet to hear any reports of any such groups being reported to have significantly lower amounts of like genetic or just material, or significantly fewer genes. So, that's just raw Matt pulling stuff right out of his ass. There is no evidence that I'm aware of that anyone in Africa has suffered from, or not even suffered from, has undergone as a population reductive evolution, which again isn't something you suffer from. It's actually a matter of adaptive evolution, right? Organisms that undergo reductive evolution are better off for it. Now you might say, but if they go into a different environment, they might be worse off. Yeah, that's true for all forms of adaptation. That's what adaptation is. The more suited you are for environment X, the less well suited you are for environment Y. Asked archaeologists study ancient things. Review for $5 says, my guy heard of island dwarfism and assumed it was reductive evolution because genetic entropy with a skull. Yeah, basically. That seems to be what it comes down to. No, this is... And the thing is, I usually think that creationists aren't going to actually come right out and say that people like the Baka tribe in Africa, who are the shortest known ethnic group, are like genetically inferior or something. But I think Raw Matt is just going for it.
Yeah.
Which is...
But the most important point here is that he's making a pretty bold claim.
Yeah.
And his source is trust me, bro.
Well, also, right? I want to point out that he's the one who's like, well, evolution is a source of racism. My guy, you're the one calling short people in Africa genetically inferior.
Yeah. Well, and again, like, if I'm doing a live video, like, right, I might reference something and not know the, like, title of the paper off the top, right? But, like, I'll give you enough clues you can figure it out, you know?
I might even, like, try to quietly Google it on my phone while I'm talking so that I can pull it up and have it.
Oh, yeah, I've done that before.
Me too.
I've done that on this stream multiple times because, especially when I'm speaking outside my field, I don't want to be talking out my butt.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Matt's not even, like, I would have a lot of forgiveness for him if he was like, I read this legitimate scientific paper and it said this, right? And I am effectively reporting on that, you know?
Raw Matt, here's how I know Raw Matt has never actually read a real scientific paper. He can't even mimic the formatting of a scientific paper when he tries.
That's impressive.
Yeah. He tried to, he did submit a paper to PLOS Biology or PLOS One, I'm not sure which one, in which the entire paper was center justified. Or center aligned, technically, sorry.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
No, it's really not. So
this is why you just use the journal's own LaTeX template team.
Yeah, you would think, but Raw Matt knows so little about how journals work that I don't think he knew that they gave formatting guidelines.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's not just like a paper you write in high school? It's not the same?
Those also have format guidelines. I was given format guidelines by my teachers and my professors in college. Roasting a Color for 199.
They were a lot looser And
Oh, yeah,
like journal
obviously.
guidelines are so strict that like I don't read the guidelines. You know?
Yeah, no. Rosina Keller for 199 says actual genomics is freaking awesome. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Basically, they took him and they said, look, he's filed his teeth down. He looks like a cross. So we're going to throw him in a cage and say he's a carnivore. So they threw a bunch of bones around him and they threw him in with the chimpanzees. So he would spent his life with the chimpanzees, holding them and tending to them. He was actually married twice and his wife died from a snake bite or something. And eventually.
In the zoo? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, all we're saying here is that the Victorians kind of sucked, right? They didn't treat people who did not look like them well, and they didn't treat even their own people well.
Yeah, that's also true.
Right? Like they didn't treat poor people well either.
It was a very small circle of people who were treated well by the Victorians.
Yeah.
Savage Cobra, the cursorial angiosperm, says, wait, he didn't submit to a microscopy journal? Yeah, no. At least Mark Armitage knew enough to actually, get through in a microscopy journal, which isn't nothing.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't. But no, he didn't even go for a microscopy journal. Not that I have anything against microscopy journals. It's just that they shouldn't be publishing paleontology.
He became so depressed he shot himself in the heart and died.
In a zoo? Matt, think about what you're saying. Who gave him a gun?
Yeah, who put a gun in the chimpanzee enclosure?
I'm just taking a drink because I'm pretty sure Matt is just making all of this up. Now, I know that the story of Oda Benga in the broad strokes is true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was an actual person who was actually taken into a zoo by Victorian English people and horribly treated in the zoo. And I do believe he did, in fact, he hit Control Alt, or what was it? Alt F4. He hit Alt F4 on himself, is what I'm going to go with.
Well, and I think the idea of the, like, primitive...
Oh, Jillian Wren says he was eventually left out.
What's up? Sorry?
Jillian Wren said he was eventually let out. Well, I hope that's true, because I was under the impression that he let himself out.
But I mean, like, that type of... I don't know how to describe a person in that situation. I'm pretty sure that existed in, like, the freak shows of the Americas.
Yes and no. Freak shows tended to be a little bit more voluntary on the part of the people who were exhibited.
Right.
They usually weren't, like, captive. However, it was one of those situations, like, you don't have a lot of job prospects. So...
Yeah. Like,
which is still not great, because, people should have job prospects that don't, like, depend on them being perfect physical specimens.
Right. But my point being that, yes, this was a bad thing that was done to people from Africa by people from not Africa, right? By, like, mostly Europeans and Americans. Like, and it was bad.
Okay, so apparently Jillian Wren is clarifying. So he was released during World War I, and he couldn't go back to the Congo because of World War I. So he did do the thing Matt said, and was buried in an unmarked grave, because he was he was not, in fact, married twice. Okay, well, that's more detail, and I'm much more inclined to take Jillian Wren's word at it than I am to take Raw Matt's word at it. So
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear about the he was released but couldn't go back home part. Yeah, that's
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible all around. I don't think anyone is endorsing this. Of course, Raw Matt says that we should be endorsing it because we believe in evolution, which means, of course, 1, we don't believe in God, and 2, we don't believe in morality.
Yeah.
Which also, again, separate propositions.
Or that like enslaving a human or enslaving a sin wrong. Right? Like,
yeah. But hey, you know what? We are at that halfway mark. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to refresh my drink, and we're going to be back after you guys get some musical stylings from one Beethoven, no relation. right, we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Maddie.
Hello, I'm finishing a cookie.
That's okay. Before we get right back into it, I'll give my quick little commercial spiel, so feel free to, eat your cookie during that. Which is to say, guys, this channel is almost entirely supported directly by you guys. Between the Patreon memberships, super chats, that right there is well over 80% of what the channel has coming in. And I appreciate it greatly, because that is you guys directly supporting the channel, not just with, watching ads, which is also important, but it tells me that you guys like what I'm doing enough to opt to help out, because you don't have to, right? I can't force you to, and I would, if many fractions of people could drop out and I would still keep going, it would just be harder. And so I really do appreciate it. And if you're someone who would like to help out and who isn't currently, there's a number of great ways to do it. As I said, the Patreon is linked in the description. That has I think it's a 12% discount if you go annual. So like you could pay just under $11 and get a year's worth of early access to videos, a year's worth of access to my supporter-only Discord server, all sorts of stuff like that. There's the channel memberships, which is a similar thing. Starts at $1.99 a month. Either way, you get access to my Discord server. You get access to months and months of early access. Like Maddie just last month spent, 8 or 9 hours binging Dapper Dinosaur unreleased content?
I did spend 8 or 9 hours binging Dapper Dinosaur. Welcome to what I do to stay sane while working on dissertation stuff. I need to make plots all day. All I get to do is plots.
So, there's a lot of great options. If a monthly or an annual thing isn't your deal, but you still want to help out, there's a merch store linked in the description where you can get blankets, pillows, phone cases, shirts, mugs, baby onesies, stickers, all sorts of stuff like that. I'm sure Hannah had a Dapper Dinosaur baby onesie, obviously.
Oh, I need to go get her one right now.
You could have just said yes, and I would have never known.
But I don't like lying, and I'm not good at it.
And if none of that's right, if monetary compensation is something you don't want to do or you can't do, like the video, share the video, watch a few of my videos in a row, and finally, I do have an Amazon wish list. If you want to get me like a book or something like that, mostly it's books. It's on there. Also, mostly not books for the channel. It's mostly just books for me. But I also want to say that Goopdo3 for $2 said, nobody tell Matt about the curse of Ham, or do tell. Yeah, the curse of Ham theology is the actual excuse that was used for racism. And tell you what, evolution doesn't talk about ham. So, But also, Savage Cobra, the cursorial angiosperm, gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, and that's one of the drink triggers we forgot to talk about. We will take 5 drinks after I say who got it, which is my unfinished channel, Sir Equinox, Ember, Rusty Longshanks, and JT. Let's take 5 drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And Roasting the Killer says, AIG is a bag of gently erupting horsehair worms. Oh, gross. You ever seen an erupting horsehair worm?
Ooh. No, but boy, howdy is that name.
Don't look into it.
Don't wanna.
The most disturbing thing, I don't know if it's disturbing, but it's weird and I don't like it, is that most animals that have horsehair worms erupt from them, despite the fact that horsehair worm is longer than the animal is, go on to survive that event. Yeah, it's horsehair worms. Mark Rose for $1.99 says his name should be Half-Baked Matt. Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
And Borg Emporia, who's been a member for 5 months and is at the amniote level, says, does Dapper Dinosaur have a cloaca like other dinosaurs? If so, how does he wipe it with his small arms? First, there's a Pelagiunicate and a Godzilla, so thank you. Take a drink.
Cheers, Godzilla.
So here's an interesting thing. Humans are one of the only animals that actually has significant amounts of fecal matter that sticks to them after defecation, and that's primarily because of their gigantic gluteus maximus muscles. Other animals tend not to have that problem. Some of the only exceptions are domesticated animals who have ridiculously thick and long coats of fur around the anus, specifically because humans bred them for ridiculously thick and long coats of fur all over the place. So it's actually not much of a problem It's actually less of a problem. I do have a cloaca, but it's less of a problem for me than it is for, like, say, your dog or cat. Because also, dinosaurs go like lizards or birds, which is to say a pretty dry single mass of uric acid as the big white clumpy thing. And then there's the fecal matter, and there's just one relatively dry, and boop, there you go, done. Don't worry about it. So, yeah. But also, I have a dinosaur bidet.
There you go.
Dinosaur bidet. Yep. So, yeah. Humans are gross is step 1, and step 2, dinosaur bidet.
So, crazy story.
Wow. Yeah, it doesn't sound very ethical. The whole
That's true. I'll take a drink. It does not sound ethical. You got that one right.
That is fact. Good job, host.
whole racism thing stemming from this.
Is it stemming from this though? No.
Makes total sense. That it's kind of like a genetic argument, and
it's really not though, because here's the actual impetus, right? Again, it's to justify slavery, because on its face, slavery is pretty hard to justify. There's a reason why for pretty much the whole medieval period, there really wasn't slavery in Europe. And it was because it was known to be a kind of icky thing to do to people. And so they made it illegal to do to basically anyone who was either Jewish or Christian. But that pretty much exhausted the population of Europe. And they weren't in the medieval period much in a position to go get people from elsewhere. So it just didn't really occur. But then suddenly they were in a position to go get people from elsewhere. And they were like, okay, but it still seems icky. How do we say that this is okay? Because while the New Testament doesn't exactly condemn slavery, it also doesn't. It also has things to say about how slaves and the free and their masters and other free people are ultimately spiritually equal. So how do you justify mistreating someone who's your spiritual equal? Well, they're not our spiritual equal because, in fact, they are lesser beings who, if anything, are being helped out by the civilizing influence of being taken as slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, it's a take. And so, what was used to justify this? Oh, things like Genesis and the curse of Ham. Yeah, so...
Well, what's crazy there, right, is fundamentally what's happening is, you have, medieval Christianity kind of doing a good thing, which is, all people are kind of equal under God, right?
Well, I wouldn't have said the Jews are equal. They were just saying, we're still not going to enslave them.
Right, yeah. Right, I'm not saying this is, obviously this is not a utopia, bad thing, right? But, the kind of theology here is that, look, that's another person who was created by God. We shouldn't enslave them, right? And then it's the theological justifications you gotta do, right? Anyway, so it was Christianity the whole time for both the good and the bad things, because if you really want to justify something, you will, right? That's just how that works.
Alex Markle says, is that why people always bring up human sacrifice to justify colonization of the Americas? It's connected, right?
Yeah, not unrelated.
Yeah, it's connected. And, I mean, to be fair, I'm not a big fan of human sacrifice, and I do think stopping it is overall a good thing. Let's take a drink for Mothra. But the question is then... See, the thing is, you can stop human sacrifice without then enslaving an entire continent. Turns out, you don't have to do both. So,
right.
Yeah. And as Fearmonger says, I wouldn't say the Jews were equal. Dapper 2023 context is key. Yeah, that's a good point. Great. Now that got one guy who said I was anti-Semitic after I did my Yosef Mizrahi videos is going to come after me again.
Oof. Yeah, he's going to have fuel.
Yep. I love that he thought that for some reason, peppering in Yiddish and Hebrew would somehow make me feel like he had a better point or something. I don't even know. He was like, oh, all these 1,000 Yidden were led to Teshuvah. And I'm like, dude, I don't care how much Yiddish or Hebrew you use. Which, by the way, yeah, no, I know what those words mean. Because, of course, he assumed that I didn't. Because,
Right.
Like you said, there's multiple arguments that they use, but the extraterrestrial one's funny because I noticed that, especially in the New Age community, is very common. And it's one that was
the New Age community is not the atheist community.
Right.
New
Age
Agers
community,
yeah,
like, generally believes in, like, a higher power of some way.
yeah, things that most people would identify as a god of some kind.
Yeah.
My kind of religion for years is that ETs created us, but that's
not what evolutionary biology says.
the Bible never talks about that, right? It talks about Nephilim and fallen angels, but it never talks about extraterrestrials creating human beings.
Right. They got that one from the Zechariah Sitchin called the Earth Chronicles, where he says that the aliens from another world came to our planet to mine gold because their atmosphere was dying. Yeah.
He's actually getting that basically right, so we'll take a drink. That is
Okay, we'll take a drink for
more
that.
or less
That's
from
impressive.
Zechariah Sitchin, and yeah. Look, I'm not going to disagree with Matt that Zechariah Sitchin is a nutbag. He absolutely is.
I know all of them as well. That's a very, very popular one, though, today. That's
I wouldn't call it very, very popular. I think it's less popular than Young Earth creationism, which is already not very popular.
Ancient Aliens on the History Channel is probably what made it take off really big.
I agree with that, and I'll take a drink. And also, I will admit, Ancient Aliens is a guilty pleasure of mine, primarily because it's like a comedy show. I'm watching it ironically, but I do really enjoy watching it ironically because holy crap, is it ridiculous.
Yeah.
My favorite was like, did aliens kill the dinosaurs to pave the way for humans? It's like, well, they took their sweet-ass time getting to the humans if they did. I don't know.
Yeah. I love the meme that is, like, God invents a hamster while he's drunk, and then is like, I want it on Earth now! Nuke the lizard!
Yes.
I love that one.
Because, you know, we look at ourselves, and we don't match anything in nature. We don't come close to anything that there is. So
I mean, except those other apes. Too young.
Chimpanzee?
Yeah. Have you ever seen like a chimpanzee with alopecia? Looks like an old guy. That's just what happens. It just looks like a ripped old guy.
Have you ever seen a gorilla interact with a baby gorilla? Right? You're you seem like a good parent right now.
Yeah. Yeah. They do all the same types of things. You know, like they'll get annoyed because their kid's being too rambunctious, and they'll just be like, "Hey," and you know they don't even necessarily like they're not getting violent, but they'll put them in their place. They'll give them a little growl or something, and like pick them up and sit them down to say like, "Hey, cool it, man." And, you know they'll tickle.
I mean, I generally don't growl at the baby, but like there's a little bit of
just have a tone of voice.
No.
Yeah. Well, you have a more expressive range of vocalizations than most gorillas.
That's true. That's true. I do.
So, Too Young to Feel As Old has gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Blunted Suspect, Revenant Raw, Ian Chen Official, Nasty Hobbits, and Kip Davis. Dr. Kill is in the memberships. I hope he's in the chat so that he knows. I'll let him know if he doesn't. So here's 5 more drinks. 1, 2, 3.
I finished my drink on 4.
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
Well, I'm going to have my 4. It's my 4. Here comes 5. Ready? 5. Awesome.
I switched over to... Oh, sorry, that's a weird taste switch from very sweet Coke Zero and Jack to Native Amber.
Oh, yeah, that is weird.
That's a... I like both of these separately. I don't like them together very much.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think I just messed up whether or not the 5 got added. There we go. That's me being bad at my job.
Why that is, right? So literally you can, like I said, right, you can look at one piece of evidence and you can see 2 different things. We can look at the Great Pyramids and we can say, well, how did primitive man with nothing but chicken bones create this magnificent structure?
I'm sorry.
Chicken bones?
Nothing but chicken bones?
The Egyptians had copper and bronze. They had saws. They had drills. They had ropes. They had log rollers. They had skips, barges, stonemasons,
also
chisels.
Question: did they have chickens?
I don't actually know. So there's no there's no chicken hieroglyphic.
Yeah, I'm Googling it. Did the Egyptians eat chicken?
I don't think they did.
They did.
I'm taking a drink for at least nothing but chicken bones.
Chicken. Chicken was not known in Egypt before the New Kingdom, but the Egyptians consumed many other types of birds, cranes, quail, geese, ducks, purple gallinule, European coot, avocet, flamingos, pelicans, pigeons, and doves.
I wonder what a flamingo tastes like.
Is The Collector?
Well, I'll say this.
It's the first result on Google.
I own a copy of Gardner's Middle Egyptian Grammar, and so I am aware of basically all of the standard bird hieroglyphics. Chicken is not among them. Quail is the closest you get. So we'll take another drink for the Egyptians didn't even have chickens when they built the pyramids. Captain Ryder asks if I knew that ancient Egyptians ate mice and hedgehogs. I didn't know about hedgehogs. I didn't know about mice. Romans ate mice.
Yeah.
Well, you can just say, well, they didn't have to. They had ancient technology or something else made it.
They did have ancient technology, like log rollers and chisels and saws. Those are ancient technology.
Right? There's a lot of ways you can explain it without just saying, well, I guess we were actually smarter than we thought. So there's lots of reasoning that you can have for the same type of evidence, right? So when we look at something, we go, I wonder what the creationist perspective is. And that's a really good perspective.
No, we're stopping right here. Yes, if you just look at something, you can make up any kind of story about it that you want, right? That's why scholarship exists. And I don't care if the field is like history or science or philosophy, right? Like people who are pursuing scholarship professionally, we have like ways that we go about evaluating evidence or constructing an argument, right? And so we're not just going, yep, looks like aliens, right? Like it's not just a difference of opinion, right? And this is what Ramat's doing here is like, this really pisses me off because this is like devaluing, like he's saying that his ignorance, right, is as valid as my like knowledge, right, and my study, right? That's a bastardization of I think an Isaac Asimov quote about like this, like anyway, but like right what he's saying is, oh well, Maddie, you just look at evidence XYZ, right, and interpret it your way because of your worldview. I look at the same evidence and interpret it a different way because of my worldview. See, our opinions are equally valid, and what matters is whose worldview is true, which is absolute BS, right? Because worldview should not enter into scholarship. That's actually a major criticism of a lot of the work on like human biology and like psychology and stuff like that of like the Victorian era. For example, right, when people thought that like, hey, head size is totally related to intelligence, right? See, men on average have bigger heads than women, therefore men are more smart.
It's science.
It's science, but me, a male English scientist, says, but even though Germans have a larger head size than us Englishmen, don't be confused, right? That's because they have a different diet and does not reflect a difference of intelligence, right? So obviously, no matter how we slice it, people who look like me, the author, are the smartest and the best, right? So that's not like, that's bad scholarship. You have to be able to identify that, right? It's not like equally valid. It just depends on whose worldview is true, right? Which is like truth with a capital T. I mean, it isn't a thing in science, right? We're we're not discussing like philosophical nature of the universe. Just want to know how it works, right? Like,
yeah.
Sorry, this is a bit of a rant, but like this is his pretty way of talking about how basically why he gets to be an expert and treated as an expert without doing any of the work.
Yeah,
and right? And you just don't get to do that.
And Savage Cobra, the cursorial angiosperm for $5 says, AIG is a bag of human body parts that resemble Shai Hulud from the 2020 Dune, from both frontal and lateral views. And we'll take a drink for that.
Cheers.
Yeah, because it opens up an entirely different viewpoint and field.
Yeah, I think looking at the Holy Bible as the Word of God and as the truth that kind of ended my searching, and it kind of brought me a lot of peace.
You ended your searching by coming to a conclusion based on what? Fiat? I mean, you can. I'm not going to tell you can't, but like weird way to come to the conclusion that science is wrong because you decided that it was, because you decided something else was right.
To say, oh wow, this is it. I don't have to keep reading websites or channeled material or going to lectures, or
I don't have to keep investigating the world. I'm just taking a drink. That's a really dumb statement.
Right, and that's gross, right? Like the idea that I hate the idea that like there's life that I'm going to study it until I understand it fully, and then I'll go do something else, right? And nothing about my knowledge will possibly change, right? Like, no, that's not how that works. Right?
No, it's not.
Like it's not about memorizing a list of facts. Go out and right? That's like elementary school, not science.
Mm-hmm.
Conferences, like it's right here in my hand. This is the truth. This is what it is. This is what happens.
Yes, exactly. See, that's the one thing that we can trust with scripture is that, yes, we know that there's poems, we know that there's allegories, we know that there's parables, we know that there's laws, and we also know when there's a story and when there's not a story. And we look at Genesis and we see, okay, is this history?
No.
Sure isn't.
He's going to say yes, though.
And, well, let's line it up and see if it actually is, right? Because Jesus said, did you not know that we created them both male and female at the beginning? What's he talking about? He's talking about mankind, Adam and Eve. Well, if that's at the beginning, then that takes away evolution instantly.
Yeah, even if he said that, and even if we want to take the major claims about Jesus seriously in terms of Christianity, I feel like Jesus is allowed to speak metaphorically about the beginning, and he doesn't have to literally mean the absolute beginning of everything. Like if I say, oh, hey, do you know that America was a representative republic from the beginning? I don't have to mean from the beginning of the universe.
Right.
I'm taking a drink.
Like, there's a lot of Christians who, like, interpret the Adam and Eve story as, like, a God choosing humans, right? And elevating them above all other animals, right? And so yeah, that's like God chose Adam and Eve, right? And even God chose these particular two humans. Like, I'm not trying to make like a claim that that's like real or something that you believe, just a statement that that's like a common kind of understanding of that story in the context of like believing in the scientific reality of evolution.
We got a lot of people who are filling in their bingo cards right now.
Ooh, nice.
Some people with like a fourth bingo.
Ooh,
we're gonna get a blackout at some point. You get a blackout on your bingo card, let me know.
Yeah. I forgot my point there, but like,
sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. This is Ramat's being dumb.
Yes, that is often the case.
And I'm just gonna take a drink of my beer.
As to archaeologists study ancient things, Ryu says, for $5, imagine cherry picking from your own damn holy books, Skull and a Godzilla, and we'll take a drink. Yeah, it's pretty cringy, but it happens a lot.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like I don't accept that there is such a thing as a biblical literalist, right? Because I've certainly never met one.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And so like no one takes the Bible 100% literally, right? Because that's impossible because there are contradictions, right? And two, like, no, everybody does some bit of interpret, right? Because like I was about to say, I guarantee Raw Matthew, I was gonna say eats shrimp, but I don't guarantee you that. I don't know what he eats. Sometimes he doesn't eat anything.
He only eats one kind of fruit.
Oh, jeez, that can't be healthy.
It's not. There's a reason why he looks like he's at death's door.
Yeah. But I guarantee you he wears mixed fabrics.
Probably.
Right? Like
my guess is that when he prays, he doesn't wear any kind of like prayer shawl or anything, and he certainly doesn't dye the fringes blue.
Right. Yeah. Like, and that specific blue.
Yeah. He's not out there crushing up snail shells.
Not doing that. Absolutely.
Also,
So,
Zootin
like-
for $2 says, lining up the Bible with itself is not proof. Yeah.
Right. Anyway. And, like, again, Ramat here isn't even a good biblical scholar.
No.
Right? He's not even well in the book that he claims controls everything. Like, come on, buddy. Again, if you're going to do this, take it seriously and do it and put in the time.
He thinks he is doing that. He thinks that as much effort as he's putting in is what you're doing for your job.
Ew.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you want to see the 20,000 all of the figures I've made?
No, I don't
After-
really. Because
What did
I
I
would
make
just,
today?
my eyes would gloss over.
Yeah, I made 2 4x20 panels of figures.
That sounds awful.
Trying to demonstrate that there's little spatial variation in sea ice loss in community Earth system model large ensemble.
Oh. Well, have you seen Raw Matt's Punnett Square?
Oh no.
Yeah. He made a Punnett Square. It's worse than you think.
Oh no.
I showed it to my friend who was like a business major in school who didn't do a lick of biology since high school. And this was like, like probably 15 years ago for her. And she just looked at it and she was like, wait, that's not. And the longer she looked at it, the more she was like, how do you know? You can't do. And yeah, I was like, yeah, no, it's bad.
And again, like, I'm not saying that any of the Matthews we study, but I'm not saying that they need to go to school and professional, like in a formal setting, study these things, right? But at least be a well-read, or like, there's tons of stuff on like YouTube, right? Like, go learn, just learn something, learn how to put together a coherent argument at least.
Watch this channel. You'll learn something.
Yeah, you'll learn something.
So
yeah.
how do we know? Can we test humanity and find out if we are actually contain the genetic material, which lines up to say, is that true? Is it?
I mean, we can test humanity and we find out that their genetic material lines up with the other apes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Is it true that we all descended from one male lineage? Yes, there's only one Y chromosome going back to one human, one male.
I'm just going to take a drink for the mathematical inevitability of a Y chromosomal atom existing is apparently somehow proof for the literal existence of Adam, which is just beyond dumb.
I just almost drank a gnat.
HL Aristoteles, no, Maddie is cutting out for everyone. For some reason, Discord doesn't super like Maddie.
Oh, I'm sorry, team. I'm even connected to Ethernet.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's always a problem with specifically you, and I don't know why. And it's been a problem since for as long as I've known you.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. At least I assume it's not.
I hope not.
Is there one line for females? Yes, and it only goes right.
Again, the mathematical certainty that at some point the X chromosome will coalesce, the mitochondrial DNA will coalesce, is not evidence of a particular theory that also includes that mathematical certainty, because all of them do. So we'll take another drink. And Meldeborn, who's been a member for 12 months and is at the Soropsid level, thank you very much for that generosity, also sends a Godzilla, so we'll take a drink for that too. Okay, here we go.
Back to what they call mitochondrial Eve, but they use the phylogenetic assumption method to estimate her dates because they assume the fossil record to be true.
No, and we're going to talk about why that is in just a second. My Unfinished Channel for $10 says, in the parable of the talents, the word bank literally means table, yet no English translation has Jesus telling the lazy servant, you should have put your money on the table. Yeah, it's almost like there's maybe some kind of nuance in there, and that maybe the most literal translations of the Greek isn't going to work. Yeah, good point. Now, let's talk about the phylogenetic assumption as Ramat says it. Okay, so now there are a number of mutations that will occur in any human, say, because we're talking about humans, right? Now, some of those mutations will be passed down and some will not. So, for instance, Maddie, you did not give a full copy of your genome to your daughter.
That's true.
That's true. All right. Now, that means that only in the roughly half of her genome that comes from you could she have inherited your mutations.
True.
Now, even if we assume that you were to have, say, 2 more children, there is a chance that some of your genome simply will not make it to any of them.
That is true.
That could contain mutations that will not get passed down. They will lack those mutations. Further, there are mutations that you might have in some of your germline cells, that is your ova, that are severe to the point that even if those ova were fertilized, they would auto-terminate before you even realize that the fertilization had occurred. Those mutations will not get passed down, even though they could be captured in some kind of a test. Further, there is genetic mutation. There's natural selection. So if, say, you have a mutation that in some ovum that allows your child to be born live, there might be some problem that causes them to be unable to reproduce. That automatically takes that mutation out of the population. So then, of course, there's genetic drift. The chances of a mutation fixing in a population due to genetic drift, assuming it's neutral, is always 1 over n, where n is the population size, and 1 is 1 because it's a brand new mutation. It only exists in one individual, ultimately. Those mutations are unlikely to fix anyway, simply because of drift. So if a population is subject to natural selection or genetic drift, they will not fix every mutation that occurs, which means that the rate at which mutations fix in a genome will be lower than the rate at which mutations occur. Now, do you think the human population is subject to either drift or natural selection?
Yep.
Which means, will the mutation rate equal the long-term replacement rate in any part of the genome? No. Now, that is a mathematical certainty. There is no way around it. It's very rare that I say that something is 100% for sure in science, but this is one of them. There is no other way for the math to work. Now, also, Skeptics and Scoundrels, who's been a member for 6 months and is at the tetrapod level, thank you very much, says AIG is a package of phallic peeny pecker pickles. Take a drink, thank you very much. Now, here's the other thing. We actually have known instances of human populations that have been isolated for like historical periods of time, like in the Canary Islands or in Tristan da Cunha, which is one of the most isolated inhabited islands in the world. It's one of the only places that when Europeans set up a colony, they weren't actually displacing anyone because it was literally uninhabited by humans. Obviously, there were other animals and plants there. And we can actually look at the mutation rates, and we can look at the phylogenetic replacement rates and see which one makes a better prediction. So, for instance, Nathaniel Jeanson famously used the mutation rate as the phylogenetic replacement rate, and one would predict that the Y chromosomes in the Tristan da Cunha population should have at least 5 fixed mutations in that chromosome. The phylogenetic replacement rate that's actually been measured elsewhere would predict that they would have between 0 and like 1.5. So like 0 to 2. And in fact, we find 0. And we can measure the difference between the genetic mutation rate and the phylogenetic replacement rate in various organisms. And we find that it never equals. Those two things are never equal. So when Raw Matt is like, well, they just use the phylogenetic replacement rate based on the fossil record. One, it's not based on the fossil record. It is empirically measured in actual living populations of humans. And 2, it is mathematically impossible, whether or not the fossil record is true, that those two numbers cannot equal over the long term, because humans are subject to drift and natural selection. That's it. That's all it takes for those two things to not equal each other. So sorry, Matt. I've actually even left out other reasons why mutations don't make it into the next generation. So it's even worse than that, but I don't want to get into too many details because I think those two things cover it.
I'll say this, if you guys are interested in like more of this stuff, over
Oh, you cut out there.
On like genetic entropy.
You cut out there, you're going to have to back up.
Okay, I was saying that Creation Myths and Dr. Dan have been doing a lot of stuff on this like genetic entropy and why it's nonsense.
Okay. Yep. Although technically this isn't genetic entropy. This is technically a separate argument.
Yes.
We look at the biological evidence, the mitochondrial clock ticking inside of us, and we see that she only lived a few thousand years ago.
Actually, no. You look at the mutation rate, and then ignoring all the problems with that, assume it to be equal to the phylogenetic replacement rate, which we know for a fact it is not. That's what you do. You're like, oh, we use the measured rate. Yeah, the phylogenetic replacement rate is also measured. Sorry. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's literally been measured, and it does not equal the mutation rate, which isn't a shock because those two things can't equal each other.
So again, it comes down to your perspective. What do you believe going into your interpretation? Do you believe that evolution is true? Because we were all in.
What if I believe that humans are subject to both selection and genetic drift? What if that's all I believe? Because I'm pretty sure that that's what Raw Matt believes too. Because that's all it takes. If I believe that, then these rates can't be equal.
Indoctrinated to believe it was true. I sure was. So when you go and you look at something and you go, well, aliens are the only reasons that the pyramids exist.
I have no idea how that connects to the phylogenetic replacement rate, and I am taking a drink because holy crap, is that out of nowhere?
Cheers. Yeah, that's weird.
Man, if the phylogenetic rate doesn't equal the mutation rate, then aliens built the pyramids. Okay, sure. I don't even know how to rebut that because I don't even know what the logic is that gets you there.
That's all I have to go with. Well, I can't even accept evolution and I can't accept creation. You see what I mean? You're left with only one perspective, and that limits your view from seeing another possibility. So you can't be like that. You can't be dogmatic. You can't just say, well, it's just mine and that one's completely wrong. Look at all the evidence.
Imagine being told by Raw Matt, of all people, that you shouldn't be dogmatic.
Right?
Have you ever encountered harder projection in your life?
No.
I mean, come on, man. Matt, you are one of the most dogmatic individuals I've ever heard. You would make the fucking Pope blush. And there it is. I dropped the one F-bomb. Jeez.
I'm very proud of myself for not doing that.
I'm actually kind of surprised I did. I usually don't. Oh my goodness.
And you'll quickly realize that scripture is actually history.
Not if you actually look at the genetics, you won't. Because it turns out that there's no way to actually get mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosome Adam within the young Earth creationist time frame, just using extant human populations alone, and the, again, measured replacement rate. Not the assumed replacement rate, the empirically measured replacement rate. Asked the archaeologist study ancient things Ryu for $5 says evolution means accepting ancient aliens is one hell of a thrilling take. Jesus H. Christ, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Well, we have so many questions, so let's jump into the Q&A. Someone asked how the so-called discovery of evolution came to be.
Evolution goes back to the very long time ago. They talked about the primordial soup in back in Rome.
I'm gonna have to see a citation on that one there, Matt.
Yeah.
And then it funneled down and came later. It was only popularized more recently by Darwin.
That's kind of true, but kind of not.
But not the way that he's presenting it.
Yeah, Darwin popularized a mechanism that allowed for gradualist evolution in a way that wasn't, well, empirically disproven already. Fits of Rage for $2 says, language! And there's an attempt at a Godzilla, so we'll take a drink.
Cheers.
Yeah, I did use naughty language. Sorry about that, everybody. Send your kids out of the room.
He's the one who took it from his grandfather and really just said, I'm going to take the money that's being funded to me by my cousin, the Rockefellers.
Okay, sure. We'll just go into weird conspiracy theory territory because I've never seen any evidence.
Okay, sorry,
that those are related.
zoned out. Is this?
Yeah, Raw Matt is claiming that Darwin was funded by the Rockefellers to invent evolution.
Help me out. I thought the Rockefellers. I thought they had oil money.
They
Did
did.
They have money
Nope, not really. Maybe he's being anti-Semitic and he actually means the Rothschilds.
Oh, okay.
Which is
like,
worse,
the
by the way.
They make their money later.
Yep. Yep.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it might actually just be that he's being anti-Semitic and he means the Rothschilds, but he's too stupid to tell the difference between the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers.
Oh, that feels more likely.
Yeah, it's one thing to be anti-Semitic. That's already bad enough. But then to be stupid about it and identify the wrong people, like, geez, man.
Yeah.
That's... Oof. And I don't even think anti-Semitism was on the bingo card.
I don't know. I don't have a bingo card in front of me.
Well, whose fault is
Just
that?
this bracelet I'm obsessively fidgeting with.
How's that going?
Fidgety.
Okay.
It's actually really cool. My sister brought it back when she went to Africa.
Oh,
So
neat.
I think it was handmade in Kenya. So it's a very cool bracelet, and it's good for fidgeting.
Nice.
And they are paying me to create an unfalsifiable model.
Evolution is quite falsifiable.
Quite falsifiable.
It makes predictions. If you find those predictions just aren't supported by the data, for instance, if you could find that, say, humans were genetically more similar to jellyfish than they were to chimpanzees, that would go a long way towards falsifying evolution.
Yeah, if like specifically like I don't know the good way to say this, but like places where the genome has like bad things have happened, right? Where it's like broken in some way, or like a virus came in and inserted itself and did stuff, right? Like not just the like coding region. The fact that we have nested hierarchies with the bad things too, that feels real in support. I am so good at biology. Listen.
Yeah, there's nested hierarchies also in things like pseudogenes and endogenous retroviruses and things like that. And there's just no good reason for that to be the case except for evolution. And if there were not such things, because evolution would predict that such things should fall into a nested hierarchy. If they didn't, that would also at least be evidence against evolution. It might not automatically falsify it on its own, but it would certainly be a pretty big problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what my grandfather did, and I'm going to take what Lyle did, and I'm going to combine this. So he took his funding and his new hatred for God, because remember,
Charles Darwin was not a non-theist until after the voyage of the Beagle.
Right.
It wasn't until the death of his daughter, or second daughter or something, that he actually ended up losing his faith in God.
He lost his faith due to like the problem of evil, not evolution. Right.
His daughter had just died.
Afterward, Matt, you're getting the chronology wrong. I'm taking a drink from Matt not.
Yeah, the chronology here is important.
Especially if he actually means the Rockefellers and not the Rothschilds, like I think he does.
Mm-hmm.
Which also actually just means that now evolution is a Jewish conspiracy, according to Raw Matt, if he thinks it's the Rothschilds. Because remember, he was like, oh, Darwin's cousins, which means that, secretly Darwin was one of the Jews. Can't have that. Oh no.
So he was very upset at God for this. So what he did is he said, I'm going to murder God. He actually said that in a letter.
Which letter, Matt? Because they're all public.
Letter? Citation needed, please.
I've read a bunch of them. I can't say that I've read all of them. I'm pretty sure I haven't. But I've never seen that in any of the letters, and I've read a fair few of them. I would love to know which one it was.
And again, Darwin going through a legitimate deep faith crisis after having the dude went to seminary.
He did.
I don't think he was he ever ordained, or
no.
did he just okay, yeah, he never finished that, but he was on the path. And the man has a genuine faith crisis, right? And you don't have any empathy for that experience, how traumatic it must be to lose a child, right? And how that's going to affect someone in the way they see the world, their view of faith. My goodness.
Yeah. There's a reason that I think of Raw Matt as sort of more akin to Pawn Scum than a normal person. He's a pretty awful human being all around.
Yeah.
And what happened is he went out of his way to create this narrative.
Alex Markle says the Rockefellers only made it big in America and Darwin was in Europe, so yeah, but there's a lot of family ties across that ocean right there, so it's not unreasonable that Darwin would have a cousin in the Americas. So
that says The earth is old, like Lyle, because remember, Lyle, his goal was to remove Moses from the science. So everybody believed that the flood was true and that the earth was young. He came along and said, I want to get rid of the Bible. I need to remove it, because he hated it, right?
Yes, Charles Lyell, the lifelong Christian who till his death believed that the flood was real and just thought it was so subtle that it didn't leave any geological impact. That's the guy who hated the Bible. Now, we have just had 10 memberships gifted by Ask the Archaeologist Study Ancient Things for you. Thank you so much. And I want to say that actually puts us $14 away from the next special Dapper, what is it, Avatar. Yep.
Ooh,
yeah, so if
that's
you want to
exciting.
see Feeder Dapper or Cyber Dapper or Mecha Dapper come back, there you go. We're really close. Although we also only have like 12 minutes to do it in, so... let's see. We've got HL Aristoteles, Off Journey, Finn, Twitch, Riley Piek, Tom Phillips, Border Barbecue, Ben Joyner, Dr. Legendre, I think, Grungvaldi Gurnison, Jillian Wren is not a breatharian, and I think that covers it. Oh, no, wait, Jillian Wren is not a breatharian was not one of the ones that got it. That was just a regular chat. So thank you for all those tetrapods. Boo for all of those pelagic tunicates, but yay for all the
Pelagic
sessile tunicates. No
tunicates.
sessile. All right, here we go. 10 drinks. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, we don't have much longer. Oh, and there goes 1999 from
Excuse
Vince
me.
O'Connor with no message. Thank you very much. That means it's time for a new poll as to which
Ooh.
Dapper dinosaur to use. So, there you go, everybody. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. If I can find my play button. There it is.
But he was just a lawyer. So what he did is he invented the geologic column.
I love how he's just a lawyer, as if geology was a degree that you could get before geology was invented, Matt.
Yeah.
Also, he kind of invented the geological column. Like, earlier workers had noticed that there were, like, strata in the earth, and they talked about it. It wasn't quite as well formalized, but okay. Just like everyone else, Charles Lyell was standing on the shoulders of the giants who came before him.
Knowing really nothing about it. And today it still stands. Well, Darwin took that and went another step further. And he said, let's move this into the biological world as well. And he goes, we see change when we look at animals. We can see speciation, basically. He said, it's a very slow process, though. Very, very slow. We won't even be able to really see it. We'll find the intermediary species later. But we are going to assume that birds probably speciate one time every 3,000 years.
That's not an assumption Darwin made. That's just being made up.
That was his prediction. What did we find today? We found the exact opposite. There's one new bird species every 3.3 years.
I would also like a citation for that.
Yeah.
Because I've not seen anything to indicate that. I don't know that anyone is estimating the number of bird speciation events that happen per annum. Number of years between bird speciation events. Guptu3 for $2 says, but was he just a simple country lawyer? No, he was an urban lawyer, actually.
Now, I'm just a simple country.
Now, one thing is, it's hard to actually figure out when a speciation event has occurred in most cases. So, and we got blackout. Nice. Good job on the bingo.
Oh, cheers. I was like,
Full
blackout
bingo.
relative to what?
Yeah, full bingo blackout. I mean, I'm not ready to black out right yet, although I am tired. It's
No.
been a weird couple days.
I'm tired. It's been... yeah.
Oh, right. So the thing with speciation, right, is it's sort of like it's sort of like growing up, right? Like we have legal definitions for when you're old enough to do things, but when have you actually finished growing up? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, when you're like 22, are you really that much different than when you were 17? Well, in some ways, but in other ways, no. You're still making stupid decisions. You know, you still probably think that your high school sweetheart is the love of your life. And spoiler alert, it's probably not. Probably not. You know, like when someone is, like we'll use a U.S. example, right? So like it's the day before your 17th birthday and it's election day. You're not allowed to vote. But like your friend, well, it's their birthday and they've just turned 18 and it's election day and they can vote. Is there really a difference between you? No, not really. No,
but for like, right, there's not really a difference, but for like classification purposes to function as a society.
Right. But the thing is, similar things occur with species, right? One day you look and you see one species and two subspecies. It's not like the next day you're going to find that they've diverged into two species. And yet over time they will diverge into two species. But when does it occur? I don't know. It's a continuum problem, right? It's just like that with all of those things, right? There's no one age that actually makes sense as the age that will let you vote or drink or smoke or whatever.
Right. But like we recognize that 5 is too young.
Yeah, and 25
and 30 is too
30
old.
is probably too old. Yeah, but where do we go
somewhere
between
there?
Yeah. But there's
in reality, like the maturity of a person is going to vary.
Right. There's no one answer you can give, right? That actually makes sense. You just have to pick something. And the same thing is true for species. So I would actually say that I don't think it's possible to get a speciation rate down in the sub-decade level. Like you could just find out that a new species has occurred. Now, there are exceptions, right? Because you get very unusual circumstances. Like we can pinpoint down to almost the exact year that Procambarus virginalis became a species, because it became a species as a result of a diploid crayfish becoming a triploid asexual crayfish in one single generation.
Okay.
So that's a ploidy change. That's a weird thing.
Yeah, but if you looked at you could get a type of average by by looking at large populations over long periods of time and, But
I don't think it would be valid to reduce that that time range down to less than 10 years. I think you could get a per millennium, and I think that anything less than that would actually be inaccurate because the time frame would be too small to meaningfully make the distinction.
Yeah, that's fair. So I'm thinking mathematically there's nothing. What use that would be.
Yeah, it wouldn't be of any use.
Yeah.
All right. Plus, I want to see a citation. Are we going to get one more bit of Matt in, and then we're just going to wrap it up?
Okay. So what he assumed to be true with his limited knowledge on biology has been completely overturned. Remember, he drew a single tree of life.
All right, I'm just going to say, what Darwin came up with was primarily natural and sexual selection. Natural selection first. He didn't really get sexual selection down until the descent of man. But neither of those has been overturned, and both of those are widely accepted by young Earth creationists. There's actually very little that Darwin that was original to Darwin that creationists reject. Creationists have basically accepted pretty much all that is distinctive about Darwin's thought. So, sorry. Heather Kuhn for $5 says, I wonder if he's confusing new species found with new species evolved. Now, that could be.
That could be.
I would not be surprised if or if a new species of bird was found on average every 3.5 years or whatever.
Especially because birds are dinosaurs.
Well, okay, but finding a new dinosaur isn't the same as finding a new bird.
That's true, but I mean, there's some stat about
Sorry, what's that? You're cutting out.
There's a stat that's a new dinosaur species is found every obscenely short period of time.
It's described and it's about every week.
Right. So and he just said a new bird every 3 years. So maybe he's.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not like we're going to get a citation out of him. It's just going to be an unsubstantiated claim. But anyway, Maddie, what's coming up with you? What do you got going?
Oh, nothing other than parenting and writing a dissertation. So, back here.
All right. Well, on Thursday, the 21st, we are having the 3 Ways to Lie About Human Evolution, the movie premiere. That's going to be a 2.5 hour premiere. So Get some
nice.
snacks, get a drink, settle in. It's going to be a long one. I think it'll be a fun one. David Menton, the late, not so great David Menton, is making so far his last appearance on the channel. I have no idea if I'll cover any more of his. I probably won't unless I get requests. That's why I even bothered to cover this one, is because I got specific requests for it. In part because, I mean, it's not like he's around to defend himself. So, not that changes my opinion of him, because I'm a big fan of speak truth of the dead, not avoiding speaking ill. If there's ill things to say and they're true, feel free. But still, if someone's not around to defend themselves, I feel like it's kind of a little unfair to make a response video. But then on the 23rd, current plans are another Dapper Reacts. And then on the 26th of September, this is 2023, in case you're watching in the far future of, I guess, 2024 or after, the current plan is Jackson with Jackson. I will be confirming with Jackson today or tomorrow. So that is what's coming up on this channel. Now, if you have access to the Discord server for patrons and members, please do go over there, because we're going to be watching 4 episodes of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy shortly after this.
Nice.
Yes, and then also, Maddie, tomorrow.
Yes. Claire Masters and the rest of Power Rangers Jungle Team.
Beasts.
Gonna be doing Jungle Beasts. Gonna be doing adventures.
Yes. Episode 22. So, yeah, you guys are more than halfway done, you know.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm level 11, and I finally get 2 attacks.
It's about damn time.
It's about damn time.
All right, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. Stay safe, and I hope to see all of you on Thursday for the next premiere. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Benthoven, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Kelvin Brostek Van Manen, Denny5252, Eleron Teller, Phil Rivara, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Maddie Babby, Monkey They Them, Mrs. Spexinder, The Venerable Bede, Sphincter of Doom, and Star Runner. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.